Hello and welcome to You've Got a Type. I'm your host Colton Simmons, and this is part 3 of Enneagram Childhood Experiences. If you haven't watched part 1 and 2 yet, please be sure to check those episodes out after this one. And it's not really important to watch them in order, but watching all 3 parts is super helpful if you want to get the full picture of how your childhood continues to inform your personality as an adult. But in this episode specifically, I'm going to focus on each type's relationship with their parental figures. And quick disclaimer on that, I'm going to describe our parental relationships as if we all had a maternal figure and a paternal figure, like a mom and a dad, but please don't get hung up on thinking about this in literal terms, because I'm not just talking about your biological mother and father, and I'm not really even talking about one mother and one father. I'm talking about these 2 figures as symbols or categories that we assign to many people throughout our lives. So, let me quickly define these categories as we know them today. The maternal symbol is for people that are nurturing, kind, patient, and help mirror our true identity as we grow. Now, the paternal symbol is for people that are protective, strong, and provide structure or a sense of guidance as we grow. Psychologists believe that the way you relate to these 2 categories of maternal figures and paternal figures is determined within the first 3 years of your life. Now, another quick disclaimer on that, since the question about nature versus nurture has come up quite a bit in regard to this series. And I want to say that nature is without a doubt the primary factor in determining our personality. This is a pretty undisputed fact. The technical term for this is temperament, and we're all born with one. However, our parental figures are the first relationships we establish in this life, and as such, they have a profound impact upon the ways we express our temperament, and whether or not we have a healthy identification with our personality type or the ego. So with that said, let's dive into the specific ways each Enneagram type relates to their parental figures. If you've watched my Enneagram 101 series, then it won't surprise you that I'm about to describe a pattern that groups the way each Enneagram type relates to their parental figures. Now, much like the Enneagram Triads, there are 3 groups that define each child-parent relationship within the Enneagram. The first group is the connected group, meaning their child-parent relationship is defined by a strong attachment to either the mother, the father, or both parental figures. Types 3, 6, and 9 are in the connected group. Now, the connected group wants to stay attached to whatever provides comfort and stability, whether that's a job, a home, or a specific person. They will make great sacrifices to their identity to keep things running smoothly. Now, the second group is the disconnected group, meaning their child-parent relationship is defined by a deep frustration with either the mother, the father, or both parental figures. Types 1, 4, and 7 are in the disconnected group. The frustrated group has a deep sense that something is missing and their needs are not being met, even if they actually have everything they want or need. Frustration has become such a core part of their identity that they easily become disenchanted with life because it's simply their default position. And last but not least is the rejected group, meaning their child-parent relationship is defined by feeling rejected by either the mother, father, or both parental figures. Types 2, 5, and 8 are in the rejected group. The rejected group feels that everyone around them is almost always on the verge of abandoning or attacking them in some way. They react in one of 2 ways, either becoming excessively clingy and controlling or pushing people away before they can get hurt. Okay, that's a broad overview. And now that you know what group you're in, let's get into the specifics, starting with Type 1 reformers. Type 1 reformers are disconnected from their father figure. So in childhood, Type 1's father figure did not provide a healthy sense of guidance. And for most ones, they had a father that was overly strict, harsh, and possibly abusive. The overall theme during childhood was that ones received an unfair level of discipline or punishment. So they overcompensate by punishing themselves before anyone else can, and creating even stricter guidelines for themselves to ensure that their father figure has nothing to punish them for. This carries on throughout their life, as Type 1s have a consistent problem with authority, unless of course they are the authority, And this is why they're called reformers, because they have a deep desire to change the system or person currently in power. Male intimacy is therefore pretty tricky. Father figures are inherently a symbol of power and structure, so if there's no trust and healing and intimacy, ones will continually rant and rave about all that is wrong in the world because fill in the blank person is in control. And I know for me personally, it took finding a male mentor in my mid-20s to help heal my deep father wounds and learn how to be vulnerable with guy friends. It also changed my spirituality in major ways, but that's still in process, so I'll leave that one alone for now, and it's probably its own episode. So instead, let's talk about type 2s. Type 2 helpers feel rejected by their father figure. Right away, I can feel the 2s I know saying, hey, nah, I love my dad. And that's probably true. Like I said earlier, a lot of these patterns develop within the first 3 years of our lives, so we don't often remember the impetus for this fracture in our psyche in regards to our relationship with our parents. So just go with me for a second if this doesn't resonate right away. 2s either consciously or subconsciously feel rejected by their father figures, and it may simply be that their father is loving but distracted. So 2s compensate, like all rejected types do, by taking on the complementary role to the parental figure they feel rejected by. Translation, 2s take on the role of the mom. And I know this is why it's kind of difficult for so many guys to accept that they are 2s, but it's not a feminine thing. It's more like being a solid partner or second in command. 2s feel like, well, I can't get father's attention, so I might as well make myself invaluable so that he needs me. And if he needs me, he'll eventually love me. So 2s become a partner to their father figures rather than a beloved child of the father figure. And this makes the relationship platonic at best. All right, let's move on to type 3. Type 3 achievers are connected to their maternal figure. I know that 3s and 7s are often mistyped for one another, so I actually use this quite a bit to differentiate the two types, as, spoiler alert, 7s are disconnected from their moms, but more on that later. Achievers become achievers because they truly valued their mom's praise and attention. Whatever their maternal figure celebrated is what 3s tried to embody, and it can be as diverse as you can possibly imagine. 3s are personality chameleons, so it can be hard to type them sometimes if their mom valued traits that are actually counter to their core characteristics. But most of the time, achievers are trying to overcome or overcompensate for the family shame that their mom is carrying. That could be multiple divorces, financial struggles, or just feeling like an outcast or a failure in their community. Overall, 3s maintain deep connections with maternal figures and often neglect or numb paternal ones. I know for my wife and her 3 sisters, they've all stayed very close to their mother, no matter how tense that relationship may be at times. But I'll leave it at that and move on to type 4 individualists. Type 4 individualists are disconnected from both parental figures. Deep sigh, yeah. It's not about whether or not your parents are still in your life, because they may actually be an ever-present force. It's about whether or not your parents really understood you. The core experience of type 4 children is that neither parent is a great role model, so you have no one to base your identity off of. You wanted or needed something different, something more, something special. So type 4s looked at their parents and thought, cool, love you, but not for me, and went outside to find something more suited to their ideals. Sadly, type 4s often find that what they are looking for only exists in their imagination, and so they stay identified with their imaginations for much of their lives. And it's interesting that many of the 4s I know have had a distant, absent, or intense father like type 1s, but the main difference is that they are not deeply connected to their maternal figures like 1s tend to be. And 4s actually have a very elitist mindset, and it's easy for them to lose respect for people, including their maternal figures. So even if their maternal figure lavished them with praise and attention, 4s likely didn't respect their maternal figure's opinion enough for it to help create a sense of relational intimacy. All right, I know that's a deep statement, but I'll leave it at that and move on to type 5. Type 5 reformers feel rejected from both parental figures and thus feel ambivalent or objectively apathetic about both parents. Type 5s felt that their parents' needs or their drama or their emotions were simply overwhelming. 5s saw chaos or instability when they looked at their parental figures. And similarly to type 4s, there just wasn't space for the type 5 child to have a specific role within the family that they actually wanted. And so they were unsure of what needs they could possibly meet. 5s reacted to this experience by searching for a role they could play, something specific and something special and something undeniable. This makes 5s great specialists later on in life, but it also makes them precarious about the traditional family model, as their instinct is to withdraw from feeling too needed, and instead they overvalue their own independence. Now, I have a brother and a close friend that are both type 5s, and it's interesting to watch how, on the one hand, my brother has never had a serious girlfriend despite being close to 40, and my close friend became a mom in her early 20s because it gave her a specific role to play in society despite not being overly nurturing. But again, that's a longer story, so let's move on to type 6 loyalists. Type 6 loyalists are connected to their father figure. 6s crave protection, and yet they often have a father figure that is more like a buddy or friend than a true father. 6s are a bit of a paradox in that they crave independence, and yet they also crave a structural authority figure to show them how to become independent. In childhood, the 6's father typically fails to show them how to become independent or autonomous. So despite loving their fathers, they know their fathers are failing at their core responsibility. And this creates a deep, lifelong anxiety within the 6. They become suspicious about the people and structures they've chosen because they don't quite believe that their chosen source of security will be able to provide protection when it matters most. Many 6s seek out the stereotypical paternal characteristics of power and stability, be it money or strength or beauty. However, they almost are always disappointed by the people who embody these traits. The type 6 journey is all about finding these paternal traits of strength and guidance within themselves, or else their anxiety about life will always remain and their relationships will kind of always be tainted with a codependent sense of obligation. All right, now let's move on to type 7. Type 7 enthusiasts are disconnected from their maternal figure. 7s are filled with frustration in regards to the way their nurturing figure failed at their job. Some psychologists say this starts with the mother not breastfeeding the child long enough. Others say it simply stems from a mother that had too many other obligations, like a demanding job or many other children that needed their attention. Some 7s grew up in a home with a child that had special needs, or a huge family that had tons of other siblings that the mom had to split their attention up amongst. Again, many type 7s may say that their maternal figure was not unloving, and the maternal figure might have had a deep desire to care for the type 7 child, but ultimately, the type 7 child felt some level of material or emotional deprivation and concluded that it was up to them to create a life where they were never in need. 7s are great at nurturing themselves, which is why their core issue is with gluttony. They over-nurture themselves and can become self-centered because they think, well, no one else is going to give me this level of attention, so I might as well care for myself. All right, let's move on to type 8. Type 8 challengers feel rejected by their maternal figure. This surprised me at first because I know a common pattern with 8s is to have an absent biological father, but this doesn't equate to feeling rejected by their father figures because they tend to take on the role of the father within the family. The defining experience for 8s is actually that they see their maternal figure as weak and in need of protection. So much like type 2s, they find their way to connect with mom is to become dad. Again, I'm still using those terms symbolically. 8s feel that their mom has rejected them in some way, and so they test their independence with their strong will and immense physical energy. Essentially, 8s know that they can wear their mom out so that they can do whatever they want. However, when they exhaust their maternal figure with their strong reactions, that fosters this sense of rejection or feeling like I'm innately bad, so I better be strong enough to endure getting rejected. And ultimately, 8s try to become what they wish they had in their lives, but it all stems from their maternal figure's rejection. Okay, last but not least, let's talk about type 9. Type 9 peacemakers feel equally connected to both parental figures. This feels like a pretty obvious one to me, but I know some 9s think they have more friction with their fathers like type 1s do. However, 1s typically have a healthy maternal figure, whereas 9s have two equally unhealthy parental figures. And being unhealthy has nothing to do with liking one parent more than the other, because 9s adapt to the emotional tone of the family and take on whatever expectations they can sense consciously or unconsciously. And the best way to describe it is that 9s feel equally overwhelmed by both parents. And so, 9s retreat to their imaginations, much like type 4s, which is why these two types are so often mistyped for one another. But a key difference is that 9s stay physically present with both parents, whereas many other types would actually remove themselves from their parents' presence, like moving away for college or moving to another country. 9s feel like their childhood home is full of assertive personalities, and this actually makes them feel comfortable because they can keep a low profile by remaining in the background of other people's lives. Now, this is something that will define the 9's entire adulthood, just like every other type's childhood condition defines the struggles they experience as adults. All right, that's how each Enneagram personality type relates to their parental figures. But there's one last thing I want to show you before I wrap up this episode. As I was researching the dynamics of our child-parent relationships, I found a unique connection between our childhood experiences and the Hornevian Triad. If you haven't watched my video on the Hornevian Triad, please be sure to go check that one out after you're done with this episode. But to summarize it a bit, the Hornevian Triad describes the way each Enneagram type behaves in social situations. So there's the withdrawn group of types 4, 5, and 9, the compliant group of types 1, 2, and 6, and the assertive group of types 3, 7, and 8. Again, I described the specific characteristics of each of those groups in my video on the Hornevian Triad. Now, what I noticed in regards to the child-parent relationships is that these groupings are the exact same when we look at which parent defines the key experience of our childhood, be it the mother figure, the father figure, or both parental figures. So, types 3, 7, and 8 are all assertive types within the Hornevian Triad. And they are each defined by their relationship with the maternal figure. 3s feel connected to the maternal figure, 7s feel frustrated by or disconnected from their maternal figure, and 8s feel rejected by their maternal figure. Moving on, types 1, 2, and 6 are all compliant types in the Hornevian Triad, and they're each defined by their relationship with their paternal figure. 1s are disconnected or frustrated by their paternal figure, 2s feel rejected by their paternal figure, and 6s feel connected to their paternal figure. And lastly, types 4, 5, and 9 are each withdrawn types within the Hornevian Triad, and they are all defined by their relationship with both parental figures. 4s feeling disconnected from or frustrated with both parental figures, 5s feeling rejected by both parental figures, and 9s feeling connected to both parental figures. So you can see just how much our child-parent relationships influence the way we express our personality in social situations throughout our entire lives. And it's these kind of patterns that exist within the Enneagram that make it such a fascinating and wonderfully nuanced tool for self-discovery and personal growth. All right, I'll stop gushing about the Enneagram and just say that I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it stoked your curiosity, and I hope it makes you dive into the rest of the Enneagram Childhood series if you haven't already. If you have any questions or would like clarification on anything I've said in this episode or anything didn't make sense, please leave a comment below and I'll respond to you within a day or two, I promise. Also, if you'd ever like to work together, either in a one-on-one or group setting, please go to you'vegotatype.com and fill out a contact form. The Enneagram certainly seems to be having a moment in culture today, and I would love to help you or your company understand how to use it as effectively as possible. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please like, share, and subscribe, as it actually really does help these videos cut through all the noise and all the content that's out there on YouTube today. As always, my name is Colton Simmons, and I will see you next time on You've Got a Type.